Hello everyone. This presentation covers task 1 of focusing on the forensic analysis of malicious Word document discovered at Driving Solutions. We'll walk through how the malware worked, what it did to the system, how we can fix the damage, and how to prevent similar attacks in the future. Slide 2 Incident Background. The attack began when a user at Driving Solutions received and opened a Word document titled jessicajones.com, which had arrived via email. Although the system appeared to return to a normal after reboot, 200 gigabytes of data had already been exfiltrated. This document was embedded with macros that acted as an entry point for multi-stage attack chain. Our analysis began by inspecting this document and associated payload that it downloaded. Slide 3 Macro Code Analysis. We examined the macro code using the Olive tool. It revealed an auto open macro, which means it automatically executes as soon as the document is opened. This macro constructed two PowerShell commands. The first one downloads a file named BART.jpg from a remote domain, saving it locally as svc host exe. The second command immediately executes that file using a command line argument to connect to a remote server on port 45698. This behavior is typically of malware establishing a reverse shell or remote command execution. The macro even displays a fake error message to distract the user while the malware runs silently in the background. Slide 4 Payload Analysis BART.jpg. The downloaded file BART.jpg is not a picture at all, it's actually a Windows executable cleverly disguised using a fake file extension. When we inspected the strings inside the file, we found indicators of a packed binary, specifically using UPX compression, a technique of a technique often used by malware to avoid antivirus detection. The payload contains no readable command strings or paths, which confirms that it is designed to operate covertly and unpack itself in memory. Once executed, this file likely establishes remote access and allows the attacker to run arbitrary commands or exfiltrate data. Slide 5 Attack Chain Overview. This slide summarizes the full attack flow. First, the user receives a phishing email with Word doc attachment. Upon opening the document, the macro automatically runs and silently downloads the disguised executable. That executable is placed in the temporary folder under the name svc host exe, mimicking a legitimate Windows process. It is then executed with arguments that enable it to call home and open a remote connection. This is a textbook example of a macro based malware infection that uses multiple stages to bypass detection and gain full control of the victim machine. Slide 6 Impact and Evidence of Exfiltration. The payload's behavior combined with the domain and port it connects to strongly supports the theory that this was the source of the 200 GB data breach. The PowerShell command passed to the malware includes parameters to open a session to the attacker servers. From there, the attacker could upload stolen files or execute to live data exfiltration. Given the timing and method, it's highly probable this infection is directly linked to the exfiltration incident reported by Driving Solutions. Next is system remediation steps. Remediating this infection requires a few critical steps. First, delete any malicious files, particularly the disguised svc host exe in the tmp directory and the original document. It's also essential to clear PowerShell command history and temporary files. which may contain evidence or scripts. The firewall and outbound ports should be audited for abnormalities to identify what the malware did in memory. We recommend running a volatility memory analysis. Finally, reset any credentials that may have been exposed while the attacker had access. To prevent next next prevention recommendations. To prevent attacks like this in the future, we recommend disabling macros entirely for untrusted documents via group policy, blocking the execution of unknown applications from temporary folders is another PowerShell defense. Employee training is essential. Users should never click enable content unless the document is verified. Outbound network monitoring can also detect unusual C2 traffic early on. Lastly, suspicious attachments should be analyzed in a controlled sandbox like Cuckoo before being opened. Next, task 2.
Hello everyone. In this task 2 presentation, we are presenting our advanced malware analysis and anti-forensic investigation. This is based on the breach incidents at driving solution, where our team at IR4U was brought in analyzing suspicious activity discovered on one of their Windows 7 system. Next is investigation overview. The investigation was triggered after the company noticed 200 GB of usual unwanted traffic, suggesting potential data exfiltration. A full scan across all endpoints showed that only the Windows 7 machine used by a book controller had specious file. Our goal was to deeply analyze these four files: job DLL, lower rider exe, and needle 3 exe and picture says exe. We aim to identify what they do and how they might avoid detection using anti-forensics or strengthly techniques. And sample 1 is job DLL. Let's begin with job DLL. This file is a 32-bit Windows DLL with no exploit functions that species by itself. Since most functions DLLs exploit at least one routine, when you check the file endotopy, a measure of randomness we found to a very high above 7.5. This strongly suggested picking or encryption. Additionally, there were no readable string inside a no function names, commands, or pods. This leads us to believe job DLL is either an encrypted payload or a shell code container designed to be injected into memory by another file. Strictly analyzed is not enough here. Live memory inspection or unpacking in a sandbox would be needed to understand what it actually does. Sample 2 is lower rider exe. Next is lower rider exe. This executable has very minimal functionally expressed. The only strings we could see were common Windows systems libraries, kernel 32 and user 32. There were no signs of registry manipulation, network communication, or file system changes. This suggested a strictly purpose, possibly a loader or a launcher that activities only under certain conditions. For example, mildly delay execution or check for our interaction to avoid triggering in a sandbox environment in some scenarios. Malwares like this remains dormant until the attack sends and remote commands or a schedule time hits. And next sample 3 is Needle 3exe high risk memory injector. Needle 3exe should under immediately as the most dangerous file. Unlikely the others, it not it uses powerful powerful window API functions like virtual allows exe, write process memory, and load library A. These are typically used in attacks where malware injects code into a limited process like explore or does not include remote command paths or API names. Them dynamically returns with helps to avoid detection antivirus forensics. This relays strict signature based on behavior. DL3exe like performs memory and tricks and next one is picture exe. The last file picture says exe looks similar to lower in structure. It used to same basic imports and link direct indicators. Malicious actively hover based on patterns. We see it likely patterns claims flows. For example, it may be designed disqualified by silently triggering job DLL needless background. The lack of obvious indicators is intentionally and response form of descriptions. And this is the anti-forensics. Connectively, there are four file executed range of anti-forensics techniques. First, we say picking encryption, but particularly in job DLL with rider unable during strict analysis. Second, needle three is using dynamic API resolution which differs antiviruses tools. These are really no common. There were no hard-coded URLs, IPS commands, or file names, which makes the binaries much harder to match the intentional intelligence. Lastly, behavior lower right picture suggested possible sandwich events and malware won't ever detection user or systems. And finally, IRU for recommendations. Based on these findings, we have few urgent recommendations. First, isolated the infected system immediately. We don't know the what stage the attacks was at. Second, previous volatile memory for the mission using tools like FTK measures or dumplet. These are allows us perform memory forensic using frameworks like volatility. Third, we recommended executing files in a controlled sandbox such as Cuckoo to triggering hidden behavior forms and sandbox memory dumps. We created custom ruler focused or routine patterns rather than static strings. Finally, we recommended reviewing systems logs and a usual parent child process activity and educating staff on malware embedded in documents. And thank you.
Task 3. So I'm going to speak on task 3. So task 3 is regarding the study of the email header file, email header and the word file. So in task 3, if we see the slides, it is written there. Slide please. So this task mainly focus on uncovering the identity of the attacker and determining the type of threat actor involved by thoroughly examine the email header and the attached file. So if we examine the email headers and the attached file, we will able to know that the source and destination and the authenticity of the file. So in the next slide, we see that analyzing email header is crucial for gathering key technical details that reveal the email's origin, transmission path, and legitimacy. A mechanism like SPF, Sender Policy Framework, and DKIM, Domain Key Identified Mail, play a vital role in verifying an email authenticity, detecting spoofing attempts, and tracing the source. So we have used some tools, which we will see on the next slide, to analyze the MX toolbox to examine the email header, and SPF, DKIM, and DMARC record to validate the sender and identify any spoofing, and and analyze email addresses to determine the email point of origin. Okay, so on the next slide we see that it is the pictorial diagram of tool which is we discussed earlier. which is called the MX Toolbox. So in MX Toolbox, we see that under the delivery option, we have some green and red marks. So green mark shows that the DMARC compliant, SPF alignment, and SPF authenticated. So these are okay. But the DKIM alignment and DKIM authenticated is showing red. So which shows that there is something wrong with the email with this email and the attached file. So we use the tool called MX Toolbox. Okay. So in the next one, we see that the DMARC compliance. Okay. So since we have seen that the DMARC compliance was green, so it was successful. So did the email successfully pass domain-based message authentication, which is DMARC, and reporting and confirmation verification indicating that it complies with the domain owner's established email authentication policies. Okay. The next one is SPF alignment. So the sender policy framework, which is called the SPF check, confirmed that the email was sent from an authorized source listed in the domain's DNS record, reducing the likelihood of spoofing. And the next one is SPF authentication. Okay, so SPF authentication. So from the IP address, we can see that this is the public IP address 185.70.42.7, which is recognized as an authorized server from the domain, confirming that the message complies with the domain's SPF policy. Okay, and now you see that a failure component. So next one is DKIM failure. So domain key identified mail verification didn't pass. It failed that we discussed in the snap. So um, indicating a potential integrity issue, the failure to validate the data signature suggests that the content of the email may have been altered or tampered with during transmission. Okay, and next we will talk about whose protocol. So it is a tool used for retrieving publicly available registration details about IP addresses. So we have seen that in the next image, you will see that the IP address from Switzerland and it was registered to Proton Technologies. So if we see the next slide, we will see that the tool which it is the domain is registered to Proton Technologies, and the IP address is 185.70.42.7, and it is located in Switzerland. Okay, so and that is all from my side. Task 3 done.
Hello everyone, this is Task 4. I'm going to present an incident response plan for driving solutions aligned with the NIST framework. This plan is designed to help us minimize the impact of cyber incidents and strengthen future response efforts. The first phase is preparation. We start by developing an incident response policy and forming a dedicated response team. It's also critical to train employees so they can recognize threats early. We must keep systems up to date and apply regular patches to reduce vulnerabilities. Helpful tools include Landsweeper and Spiceworks for asset management, CrowdStrike for endpoint security, and Nobi for security awareness training. Next slide, please. The second phase is detection and analysis. We continuously monitor systems to detect and analyze suspicious activity. Prioritizing incidents helps us respond efficiently. We use SolarWinds, Snowd, Autopsy, and Cisco Umbrella to identify, analyze, and understand potential threats. Next one, please. We isolate. Next is containment, eradication, and recovery. We isolate affected systems, remove malware, and restore clean backups. Applying security patches ensures issues don't resurface. Tools like Sentinel-1, Veeam, Acronis, and Nessus help us contain threats and recover securely. Next one. Finally, we conduct a post-incident review. This means in analyzing what happened, updating policies, and improving our readiness. Tools like Jira, Confluence, and Volatility support documentation, learning, and future planning. Next one, please. To wrap up, this response plan provides driving solutions with a structured, efficient way to handle cyber incidents, limiting damage, and improving our resilience. Thank you.
Hello everyone. Task 5 presentation is understanding Word document phishing attacks through cyber kill chain. uh, using the intelligence driven defense model to identify and prevent cyber instructions. Next, now I'm going to explain how cyber kill chain framework help us to understand word document phishing attack. The cyber kill chain is a part of the intelligence driven defense model developed by Lockheed Martin. It breaks down a cyber attack into 7 stages, giving us visibility into the attacker's process and helping defenders intervene at each phase. Step 1, recognition. Recognizance, sorry. The attacker starts by researching the target organizations or individuals. They gather information like emails, formats, employee roles, or business process. Common sources include LinkedIn, company websites, or even previous breaches. Their goal is to identify someone likely to open a Word document like HR or finance staff. Step 2, weaponization. Next, the attacker creates a malicious Word document. They embed a macro or exploit a vulnerability. Example, CVE 2017-0199. The document is configured to execute a payload like malware or a backdoor when opened. Step 3, delivery. The attacker delivers the weaponized document through email, a classic phishing attack. The email is socially engineered to look legitimate, an invoice, resume, or business proposal. The victim is tricked into downloading and opening the attachment. Step 4, exploitation. Once the document is opened and the macros are enabled, the malicious code is triggered. It may silently exploit vulnerabilities in Word or download further payloads. At this stage, the system is compromised without the user realizing. Step 5, installation. The downloaded malware installs itself on its victim machine. It might create scheduled tasks, edit registry keys, or install services to maintain persistence. This gives the attacker a foothold with the organization. Step 6, command and control. The malware establishes a communication channel back to the attacker's server. This allows the attacker to control the infected system remotely. It often uses encrypted traffic or blends in with the normal network activity to avoid detection. Step 7, actions on objectives. With control established, the attacker begins executing their objective. This could be stealing sensitive documents, harvesting credentials, or even spreading laterally within the network. In some cases, this leads to further attacks like ransomware or data exfiltration. The conclusion of this is the cyber kill chain help us break down and understand each stage of this attack. It also shows where defenders can interview ideally before the attacker install malwares, uh, training users, detecting phishing attempts, and monitor for unusual activity can stop attackers easily. And the mitigation tips like email filtering, user training, and macro instructions, endpoint detection, and response EDR. Cyber kill chain helps understand each stage of the attack. Early detection at delivery, exploitation, or installation phases can stop full breach. Defenders can comprehend every phase of the assault life cycle by analyzing the Word document phishing attack using cyber kill chain. Organizations can stop attackers for accomplishing their goals by detecting and preventing actions earlier in the chain, particularly during delivery, exploitation, and installation. This is our presentation. Thank you.